Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the second chapter of Empowering Change. This is a series of reflection and learning modules designed specifically for the RES-MAB network. Also, we have a lot of people from outside the RES-MAB network. And just thank you for sharing your time with us. Just one thing. Our goal is to embrace resilience and drive meaningful change in our territories. This is just a reminder of what a Biosfera Reserve and an introduction for those who are new. Oh, no me deja pasar. To understand our framework, we must look into the UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Their mission is to promote global peace through international cooperation in education, science, and culture. Specifically, the aim is to help countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG. About the role in nature throughout the Man and Biosphere program, it manages sites' ecological and cultural importance. This is our main part. This is where I focus on the role in nature. Also, the UNESCO plays a vital role in nature, not only because it's a way to care the ecological, also with the link between the inhabitants of an area and the ecological value, and also with the cultural one. One of the aim is to maintain the cultural value of the area, just to get a real net of all around the world. What is a Biosphere Reserve is not just a park, it's a living laboratory, and it's a place to learning for sustainable development. Just to remember, this is 784 sites, Biosphere Reserve across the world. This is the World Network of Biosphere Reserve, and it's about 142 countries. Also, we are in the RES-MAB project, and this project is funded by the European Union through the PRIMA Foundation, and our mission is to promote adaptation and mitigation solutions based on a WEFE Nexus: water, energy, food, and ecosystem. What we want is to build landscape resilience against climate change in the Mediterranean Reserve. The project involves also diverse partners across the Mediterranean, from Spain, France, Jordan, Slovenia, Italy, Lebanon, and Morocco. And this specific training module is designed to strengthen our technical and conceptual capacities. Just to the objectives is involved all these partners to create to get a general objective that is promote an integrated WEFE Nexus basis towards more resilient and climate change adaptive landscape. Also, we want to promote integrative landscape managers by approach and developing and implementing WEFE Nexus sociological modeling tool that is developed by some partners. We are integrated some cross-sectorial policies and development action plans. We are co-creating and developing a Mediterranean RES-MAB network of 7 demonstration sites. Here is one of the demo sites, Alto Bernesga. And also, we want to assess and monitor the environmental and socioeconomic impacts in these 7 demo sites. And we want to promote a sustainable market solutions where we are developing now. Yes, this training forms part of the training program. I think there is someone with the sound off on. Please turn off, please. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This training module is part of the RESMAB project, and it content has been designed to strengthen these technical and conceptual capacities. And now the second part of this training program will start. Blanca, Paul, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica, for that introduction, and welcome all to the second session of this capacity building training. For those of you that were not here last week, my name is Blanca, and together with my colleague Paul, we're going to be giving the session today, which is called business model and value proposition. Yeah. If anybody at some point has a question, please feel free to. I'm going to ask, sorry, I just silenced somebody. If you can silence your microphones, but if you do have a question, please feel free to open the microphones and speak up, or raise your hand, or use the chat to ask any question that you might have throughout the session. So, as I was saying, today we're doing the session 2. I'm going to share with you first a little bit about the objectives and the agenda that we'll be seeing today. So today we have 3 objectives. The first is we want to understand the importance of Canvas business model and how to build it. We will explain each of the segments of the Canvas business model, and it's going to take a lot of the session, this part. We want to make sure that you guys understand it fully, and ask any questions you might have regarding that, because then the second part of the session, we will be building our own business model Canvas and practicing with it, yeah? And before that, we will also see how to incorporate the social impact in a business model, yeah? Business model, a Canvas business model is a traditional tool used in businesses that didn't have so much of a social impact at the beginning, but now we want to see how we can also incorporate this social impact in the tool that we're going to be showing with you today. So those are the 3 objectives that we have today. As I was saying, the first part of the session will be explaining to you the model, how it works, what each segment is, and we will go slowly to cover all the theory to make sure you understand fully everything. Then we'll take a little break, probably around 5:30 or maybe a bit later, depending on how much we want to extend the doubts you might have. And then after the pause, we will go into a practical exercise to help you guys understand how to build a social business model. Okay? So as I was saying, any questions you might have, please feel free to raise your hand, write on the chat. We're here to help you throughout this process. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Paul, who is going to be explaining the first part of the session.
Hello, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces from the previous session. Good to see some new ones as well. As Blanca said, feel free to intervene, to raise your hand, to ask questions if anything is unclear. We might not go as in deep in some of the topics that we did the previous session, but if you missed something and want to ask, please feel free to say it, and we'll try to step a little bit backwards. Okay, so now that we set a little bit the stage with the objective, we are going straight into the topic, the social business model in the WEFE Nexus. As you remember from the previous session, and if not, ask, the WEFE Nexus is the framework in which we operate, okay? Sort of seeking mutually beneficial interventions in the field of water, energy, food, ecosystems through business models, okay? Seeking synergies, but also being aware of potential trade-offs in, social business models, but also public policies and any sort of social intervention, okay? We know that water, energy, food, ecosystems, these nexus, are not isolated ideas or concepts, but they are deeply interconnected. So we aren't just looking at, okay, how to make a business work financially, but how can it serve as a potential tool for resilience and security in these areas. Okay, so that's a little bit the framework in which we are operating. Before we get into the social part, though, let's align on what the business model is. Okay, this guy Alexander Osterwalder is the guy who revolutionized this field with this main tool that we will be using today, and defines the business model as the logic of how a company or an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. Okay, creating value is about what problem we are solving. Delivering value is the logistics. Okay, how does this solution, this idea, this product, this service reach a person? And capturing value is let's call it the sustainability piece. Okay, let's be polite. How does the organization stay alive through revenues by delivering this product or service? Okay, that's the definition of what a business model is. To build this logic of the business model, we ask ourselves, let's say 5, could be more, but let's say 5 fundamental questions that we have to clarify before starting activity. First is what challenge we start here. In our context, this is usually the societal or environmental challenge existing in our territory that we want to address through a business model or social intervention. Okay, who is receiving the value? This is the target audience, potential customers. Usually it is the payer as well, but not always, as we discussed the previous day. Is it the local farmer? Is it the tourist? Is it the municipality? Is it the society as a whole? Okay, who are we generating value for, and which value? Okay, what specific need we are covering? We are not just, as we discussed the previous day, we're not just selling a product. We are providing security in food, or we are providing security in energy, or stability in water supplies. What's the sort of value, security that we are providing to our users? Okay, and how do we offer it? Okay, the characteristics of the service and the channels we use to reach people. As we discussed the previous day, first we need to be clear about what societal or environmental need or challenge we're covering, and then we can discuss how we do it. We could have different answers on how for the same what. For instance, for food security, we could have a how going through, supporting local farmers in producing sustainable food in their own lands, or we could improve logistics for transnational supply chains. Okay, so there are different hows into the same what. That's why we need first to understand what challenge we are addressing. And finally, the ultimate question we are asking ourselves before starting a business model is, how do we make it profitable? Okay, we'll look into the profit and loss, into revenues and costs, today we will have a first glance, and at that later session, I think it's the next one, we'll go in deep into feasibility studies, making sure that organizations are sustainable. Okay, these are the key factors, the key questions we need to ask ourselves before starting a business model, and these factors must be coherent for the model to function properly, let's say. Okay, please, I see the message here from Carmen, so I'm just recalling it for everyone. Make sure translation's working. If something's not working properly, please, again, feel free to ask, and we will try to see what's happening. Okay, so to visualize these ideas, these questions, we use first, then we'll go deeper into an extension of this model. We use the Canvas business model, okay? Think of this as a sketch draw before you ever write a formal business plan, okay? You could have a long document stating all the characteristics of a product or service, but when we are starting, we need to start with a sketch drawing of this business plan. This is a structured one-page tool that will allow you to ask yourself the right questions and see the whole project at once. But of course, it's a dynamic tool, so it's not meant to be like a final definition of your business model, just something that you can keep modifying, or something that should be forgotten. It's something that you need to keep in mind and make sure that your business model is still aligned with the values that started it at the very beginning. Okay, it serves us to define and explain our project using structured dimensions. So it means it's clear for us, but it's also clear for other people when they need to understand something. Think about people who have to finance our project, or think about people who have to participate in the governance of our project. Okay, and that's the tool that we will use basically along this session, and we will go in deep into each of these segments. Basically, this method helps us, see the core elements of the model, and as I was saying, it's the step before creating a big business plan. Okay, unfortunately or fortunately, social business models are a little bit more complex because they include social and environmental impact in all the aspects of business management, let's say. So the business model will be evolving as market reality becomes clearer, and also as we decide or think of ways of incorporating social impact in the different decisions that we need to make regarding our business model. So that's the template, okay? That's what we will be using along the session. We will ask you to help us fill it in with an example. And I would like you to start, let's say, visualizing your projects or a project within these boxes, okay? That's just the first picture. We will go in deep later on in here. And the question is, where do we find the social impact in this model, okay? What is the identified social, environmental, or cultural challenge? If you see it in here, it's nowhere. There's no box, let's say, called social impact or environmental impact. So where could we find it? The answer is potentially anywhere and everywhere. Okay, is there any social, environmental, or cultural challenge that could be addressed through any of these areas or boxes? Okay, what is the current context and the specific challenges in our context, let's say, that could be addressed through, for instance, selecting customer segments? Well, we could identify groups that have specific social needs, or we could identify groups to be users that usually cannot access this type of product or service because of the cost. or we could have a policy related to prices, for instance, like solidarity mechanisms. So in the revenue part, in the revenue structure of our business model, we already account for accessibility. Or we could have the social impact in the alliances part, okay? Do we collaborate with entities from the social and solidarity economy? Or do we have non-competitive policies, let's say, or mutual help dynamics with other businesses? Well, then we would have some social impact in the alliances section. We could also have it in the costs section. Do we choose providers a fair, let's say, contractual policy or some social contracts, let's say, no, with providers from the social and solidarity economy? Well, then we have a social impact in our cost structure, or in the resources that we use. You know, what are we using? Tools that are non-perishable. So hence we have long-term equipment that does not generate residuals. Or is it in the channels? Because we use ethical channels to reach the public or to talk to our customers, or the distribution channels. You know, they are electric vehicles or bikes delivering the service. So we have social and environmental impact in the channel section, or in the type of relationship we have with our customers. Are we a consumers cooperative? So meaning that in the governance of our business model, we involve our customers. Well, that's a way of embedding social impact in the customer relationship of our model, okay? That's the first idea, that when we see this business model, that we will go in deep section by section, but we always keep in mind some questions that help us integrate or embed social and environmental impact in our business model. To explicitly integrate social impact into our business logic, one good recommendation is using this triple-layered business model canvas. This is, again, a tool for co-design. This isn't about, like filling in tons of different papers. This is basically expanding the traditional economic or business model to incorporate environmental and social dimensions, okay? By looking at all of them together, we ensure that our business model is actually sustainable and social, okay? Basically, the objective is that you are able to identify, let's say, a local problem and map how can you help covering it through the different dimensions of this business model, okay? Engaging the right stakeholders, or targeting the right audience, or finding the right distribution channels, or selecting the right providers or the right type of products that avoid generating residuals, okay? There are different strategies, but basically the idea is that this is not a mandatory structure that you have to worry by filling in as a whole, but having a structure that gives you a set of questions that you can use, explore each component of the business model, and go in deep to see what's the type of impact in each part of your business model, okay? In the customer segment, okay, who is the end user? Is it someone that is hard to reach very often, or that has no access to this type of product or service? Okay, then that's the social impact of my business model. In the customer relationship, or in the channels, is the distribution channel of my product or service environmentally friendly? Okay, that's the environmental impact of my channels box in the Canvas business model, okay? Or in the alliances, who are my suppliers? Who are the organizations to whom I outsource part of my activity? Okay, is it clear? Do you feel comfortable with this type of structure? Does it make sense? I'd like to see some thoughts. I don't know if someone has some experience with the traditional Canvas business model, and have you worked with the expanded version of the triple layered business model? Ideas, thoughts, comments?
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Nadia from Anzoua, from Morocco.
Mhm.
Actually, we did use the triple-layered business model Canvas within the RESMAB project.
Mhm.
Use it to assess the business models developed by the other Biosfera Reserve, and it's a great tool that assign the economic aspect, the social one, and environmental one.
Mhm.
We did apply several steps to analyze those canvas, such as the coherence between canvas, horizontal coherence, vertical one, to highlight or to detect the hidden aspects between the economic side and the environmental one and social one.
Great. Thanks for contributing. Is it the case only for you and your team in your reserve, or is it the case for everyone more or less in the consortium, you think?
We did apply the triple-layered business
Okay.
the
All together? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Great. Then we'll have the opportunity to practice again, or share the experience with more people who might be here. Good. Okay. So basically, our idea for today is to start thinking of a Canvas business model while asking ourselves the questions of the triple layered business model. Okay. Nos preguntan si hay alguna aplicación para hacer Canvas. Yes, there are templates and applications. I'm replying to the question in the chat. We had planned for today an interactive session, and we will be working in a mural all together, so we will be able to practice together. And after the session, we can share some apps to make the Canvas on your own as well. Okay, so basically our plan for today, as I was saying, move step by. Sorry, Veronica, please. No? Okay. So basically, our plan is to fill in step by step one business model with an example that we will provide, but we are also happy to hear from you if you have a brand new idea. Okay, keeping in mind the, let's say, triple layered business model. So we always start with the customer segment. Okay, why? Because we think it's important, as we said on the previous session, to make sure we are using a user-centered methodology or a user-centered process before we start creating the social business models. So the first step is always to define the specific group of people, organizations, target populations to which we want to bring value and that constitute our primary audience. As we said the previous day, to do that, we highly recommend using this type of template, okay? Identifying the group of people, how are they, do they have money, not much, where are they located, what's their legal figure, what sector do they operate, and what's their specific need, why do they, okay? As we said the previous day, we are not thinking first of products or services, we're thinking of needs. And then we will see what kind of product or service we can provide to cover that need. Okay, we will not go in deep into this because we are assuming we remember this from the previous session, but if there are any questions, please feel free to ask whatever you feel. Once we've discussed the customer segment, we move to the core of the business model. Okay, the value proposition. It is essential to understand that this is not just a list of products and services you offer, but a combination of solutions, benefits, unique elements that solve a customer's problem. Okay, it's not about saying, yeah, I sell food, but it's about, no, I am covering the specific need of healthy and local food production for this segment of population who want to eat ecologically friendly food from their own country, for instance. Okay, so think of it as the reason why customers choose us over any other alternative. Okay, it explains what the project offers, and most importantly, let's say, why that offer is relevant to your customer segment, okay, to the population that you have described in the previous segment, in the customer segment section. So it's about making it, let's say, unique and indispensable to your audience. This combination of solutions, benefits, differential elements of your business idea is what makes your project unique, and this value proposition is what makes your product or your service relevant. And you have to think not only of the need, of the specific need that is covering, but also of the functionalities of your product, of the emotional benefits, of the social benefits. So as we discussed the previous day, what makes it interesting and why people would choose that product or service over other alternatives? Is it because it's closer? Is it because it's cheaper? Is it because it's better? Is it because it makes people feel better? Is it because it helps people show off? Is it because it helps people feel content with themselves? What's the functional, emotional, and social benefits of this product or service? What's the value, the core value of your idea? So that's a guidance of what are the key questions that we could ask ourselves. What problem do we solve? What solution do we offer? And how does it improve customers' life? And also, how does it improve it compared to similar solutions? What specific benefits do we generate? Savings, security, stability, well-being, self-satisfaction, self-confidence, pride. There are many functional, emotional, and social benefits that a product or service might be providing. Okay, and what makes us different from other existing solutions, and why should the customer choose us over other alternatives? Okay, so basically, summarizing, the value proposition is not only the product or service we offer, but the value it provides to the customer service. And to understand this value, we must put ourselves in their shoes. So as we said the previous day, user-centered design. Ask about their pains. What do they feel? What do they need? What are their concerns when they get home? Okay, and reflect over the need that we want to cover and that no one else is covering in the same way. Okay, important thing, the social impact can be a part of our value proposition. Okay, we produce food respecting the environmental dynamics of the ecosystem in which we operate. But this is not usually the main reason for purchase. Okay, it might be a reason for why people stay, but it's usually not the active reason for why they purchase. So the most important thing is not what I want to sell, but what the customer is actually looking for. Okay, it's not only about the food being, of good quality. It's about if the customer is looking for good quality food, or is just looking for convenient food, or is looking for cheap food, or is looking for food that is produced by their neighbors because she feels content that the neighbors have jobs. Okay, customers care about their problems and how you solve them, not the technical characteristics of your products or services. So before thinking about the technicalities and the complex things of the product design, think of the problems, think of the pains of the consumers, think of the gains that they would have with your product, think of what they need. Okay, put yourself in their place and think of exactly what they need before thinking of the technicalities of your product or service.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. I'm going to intervene now. Paul and I are going to take turns so we don't run out of breath or voice throughout the session today. So I'm going to be talking to you to the third segment. The segments, I think Paul mentioned it before, but I'm just going to do a little bit of incision there, precision there. The segments are, normally we work them in a specific order for a reason. So the first segment is customer segment, as Paul was saying. The second is the value proposition, and the third is the channel. So the way we are explaining them to you today is the way that you should be working and thinking about the segments when you fill in a business model. And there's a specific reason why they have this way of working, because once we define one thing, then we can define the next, and not until we have decided on the customer segments do we define the value proposition, and not until we have those two defined, we can define the channels. So the moment we change the customer segment, then the value proposition would also change, and the channels might also change. So this is very important when you're thinking about this model, yeah? So as Paul was saying, we have defined customer segment, we have defined value proposition, and the third one, we enter into the channels. The channels is, what are the means through which I'm gonna provide the products, the service to my customers. The means, I'm talking about physical means, I'm talking about other means, in which way I'm going to provide my customer with the value proposition that I've designed for them, yeah? And this has to do with the way we communicate, we distribute, and we deliver the project, the value proposition, yeah? So the channels vary widely depending on a key set of questions that we have laid out for you here today, that you have to ask yourselves before deciding which channels you're going to use to deliver your product, yeah? So key questions that you need to be asking yourself. First of all, how do the customers know or learn about us? Do they learn through a website? Is it through an app? Do they read something in a newspaper? Do they see a poster on the side of a road? So there are different ways that the customers can learn about our activity and our product or service. And we need to think, how am the segments that I'm choosing to be my customers, how are they going to best learn about us? Yeah. How is my information going to reach to them? And this obviously has a lot to do with which type of customers. Yeah. Here would come a very basic idea, for example, that if I'm aiming, my customer segment is, for example, youth population. We know that youth population nowadays, the way they learn about things, it would be like the social networks, yeah, the apps, the online, yeah. But if my customer segment is less youth oriented and it's more towards an older type of a population, then maybe digital is not the way, yeah. Can you go back, Paul, please? Thank you. So that's one first question that we need to ask ourselves. Then the second question would be, how do they contact or access the service? Yeah, the first one is how are going to learn about it, but the second question is like, how do they contact me? Do I have a website where I have a form and they can like click and send an email? Or do I just have an email somewhere that is accessible and I have to be looking in my email, no, in order to see that I'm receiving a request? Or do I have a mailbox somewhere? If I'm a local producer and I don't have website or email or anything, do I get my purchase demands through a mailbox somewhere? So that's the way that they're going to contact me that I need to be defining, yeah? Then the channel that I used to sell, which channel am I using, no? Again, this is very digital or not digital. We need to be asking ourselves these questions in order to define, yeah? How do we deliver the product once, or the service, yeah? If I'm producing local jams, we were talking about the other day, how am I gonna, which channels I'm gonna be using to deliver this jam? Am I putting them all in my truck and sending my truck to a specific place? Or am I putting them in a mailbox and then I'm sending them via post mail? So which channel I'm using to deliver the product? And then which channels do our segments prefer? Yeah, because this is also a very key, important question. Like maybe my targeted customer is one that requires immediate arrival of my product, and therefore the channel has to be adapted to the immediacy of the demand. Yeah, so am I going to do something that's going to be delivered very quickly and reach to them within 24 hours? Or if my segment is a one that doesn't require this immediacy, then maybe I can do another type of delivery channel, yeah? And then lastly, which channels are actually economical sustainable, yeah? Because we can have an idea or a wish that I'm going to be sending a product in 24 hours, but then the cost of me sending that product in 24 hours is not viable. And this is obviously going to be linked later when we do the costs of the Canvas models, what costs are associated to the model, yeah? But it's also a question that you need to ask yourself when you're in this part of the model, yeah? Which channels might be more economical or not, and to make it sustainable, yeah? So any questions about the channels? Everybody understands what channels are? Thumbs up? Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we pass to the next segment. Thank you. Oh, there was a little more about channels here. Thank you. Oh, okay. Well, here, it's basically a summary of everything that I was saying before, yeah? We need to define the sales, the communication, and the distribution channels, which was what I was talking about, and that they have to be consistent with the customer segments, which is also what I was saying, and with the value proposition. And here we have an example. For example, online channels usually generate less of a sense of personal touch, which is true, yeah? If I want to feel like I'm buying something from a local producer and I'm buying it like online, then I'm going to not have this personal touch. Whereas in comparison that I go next door to my neighbor who is producing the jam, yeah? So these are all things that you can take into account. And thank you, Paul. And to the extent possible, using channels that respect the environment. This is very important when we're thinking about the WEFE Nexus, sorry, and also to take into consideration the positive social impact, yeah? So when we consider if we want to hire other social enterprises and suppliers, yeah, that they can like enhance the social impact of my business also in this segment, yeah, and the channels that I'm using in order to boost my social impact with my business. So that's it. Okay, yeah. No, I think we can skip this one, Paul. Thank you.
Cool. So bridging a little bit between the different boxes of the business model, be clear that there are some business models, let's say, that they base their impact but also their activities in some of these ideas. No, for instance, we had the example of ethical distribution companies, for instance. Well, that's a business model that creates a value proposition centered around providing social impact and social value through the distribution means. Along the same lines of channels, we find customer relationships. Okay, this is the type of bond that we want to create, that we want to establish with our customer segments. Okay, customer relationships is the link that our organization creates with our audience, and it's not just about being nice. It's about defining long-term interaction, about defining cooperation, and also integration into governance of the project. No, do we provide a personal service where every client is known, or is it automated, or is there a self-service relationship where the user interacts mainly with a platform, or do we have a customer relationship that promotes interaction between customers themselves as well? This choice is important because it defines a little bit the feeling of your project, and more practically, it influences the user experience and your costs. Okay, there are different elements that we have to take into account when deciding the type of relationship that we want to establish with our customer base, and it's user experience, costs, also type of a way in which we can receive feedback from customers, and there are again several questions that we have to ask ourselves when thinking about the customer relationship. Okay, to define this block, we basically start by asking, okay, how do we want the relationship with our customers to be? Okay, do we want to know them by the name, or do we want to have them in a database but we do not have direct interaction with them? Do we want to have physical interaction, or do we only want phone interaction and digital interaction? Do they need personalized support, or do they prefer autonomy? And again, this also depends in the customer segment we have selected. Sometimes if we select young people, we might think, or we might find that they prefer a certain degree of autonomy and not a highly personalized relationship. Whereas if we select a customer segment that it's the elderly, they might prefer personalized support, and they might value that we know them by the name. Okay, if it's a large corporation dedicated to the agro industry, they might prefer a digital relationship, whereas if it's a small local farmer in a rural area, they might prefer a direct contact in which they can make small arrangements into the weekly provision, or have discussions around prices or around timings for delivery, for instance, or different elements of the customer relationship with the company. The next question we have to ask ourselves is, does this type of relationship affect our ability to retain customers? Do we need to adapt ourselves to make sure that they do not leave to a competitor, for instance? And do we need specific post-sales support with our product or service? Okay, again, there are products and services, but also specific customer segments who really value post-sales support, or who really need post-sales support to make sure that they become recurrent customers. Okay, and we also have to ask ourselves, how do we collect feedback from these customers and turn this into improvements? There are different options, especially nowadays. Some of them related to digital means, but this serves even when customers are a one-off. For instance, for tourism, usually the customer will not be back, but their feedback is important for future customers. Okay, how do we want to make sure that we are incorporating their feedback to make sure that the next experience is even better? Or if it's a customer that will be recurrent because we are providing, let's say, food or fertilizers, how do we make sure that we hear their needs and incorporate them into our operations? Okay, so these are the type of questions that we need to ask ourselves when thinking of customer relationships. At this point, there is already, and linking it a little bit with the triple layered model, some ways in which we can incorporate environmental and social value. For instance, if our product is something that generates or potentially generates residuals, how do we ensure that at the end of life of our product, the customer brings it back to us or recycles those residuals that after the usage of the product? Okay, this is something that when thinking of customer relationship, we need to take into consideration. Also, in terms of societal culture, we need to make sure that our customer relationship is adapted to the expectations, needs, preferences of the society in which we are operating, and making sure that we provide some social value through the type of relationship that we are building with our users. For instance, if our customer segment are old people who have a garden in a biosphere reserve, okay, besides providing a fertilizer, we need to make sure that we are contributing to community life and to keeping them engaged with each other, for instance, with different people that have gardens in a biosphere reserve. Okay, so these are the type of ways in which the triple layered model helps us incorporate societal and environmental value into, in this case, the customer relationship segment of our business model.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So now we are going to go into the fifth segment, which is the revenues. It's a very, very important segment. They all are, but this one is specifically important. Also, I want to take advantage to show you right now, if you see the screen, how we've started with the right side of the Canva. This is the way, when I was telling you before about the numbers, this is the way it's done. The right side of the Canva is everything that's related to external factors, yeah? So we've talked about segments of clients. We've talked about what value I'm offering to the clients. We've talked about the channels I'm using to link with to sell my product to the clients. We've talked about the relationship I want to have with them. And then now we're going to talk about the revenues that I'm obtaining from this external conversion, yeah? This external transaction between my business and the outside, yeah? Whereas the left side, which is the one we're going to start seeing after the revenues, is everything that has to do with more the internal way that my business is working, yeah? And you will see this more clearly once we've finished explaining all the segments. So the revenues details how and why the project generates the revenue, yeah? The income. Where am I getting the money from? Yeah, basically, it's defining the monetization model and what are the economic flows of my business. Yeah. So again, set of questions that you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about the revenue. So first of all, how does my money come into the project? Yeah, this is a very basic question. I'm selling a jam. So how much my jam is selling for, and is this the money, how much money I'm getting from selling this jam? Yeah. Do we have one revenue or do we have several? Yeah, maybe my business has different lines and I have different ways of obtaining money from my business. Yeah, not just one, but several. This is very important as well. What business lines exist related to what I was saying before? No, maybe I only have one line within my business, but maybe I have more than one. And so for each line, I have to see the revenue that I'm getting from each line. Then what price is the customer willing to pay? This is very important because I can have a product and I can have an estimation of the cost of the product that can be 2,000 euros, for example. This is how much my product is going to cost me to make it. Is my customer willing to pay that much money? And this is a very basic question that you need to ask yourself. If I'm offering a jam, how much is my customer willing to buy me this jam for? Yeah. Then is it a recurring sell? Is this happening once a month, every 2 months, every 3 months? Or is it a one-time revenue? I'm selling just one car and that's it. And I'm not selling anything else, no? It's not a recurrent thing. That's what I meant. So recurring, is more constant, but a one-time revenue, it's just going to be one time and then the revenue is going to be finished. So this is very important when analyzing the economic model of the business, yeah? And then what alternative mechanisms can we activate? For example, subsidies, partnerships, collaborations, any alternate sort of income that's going to create or provide me with a revenue as well. Yeah, this is also important. So these are all the questions you need to ask. We pass to the next one, Paul, please. Thank you. So then also important when thinking about social impact is, can we implement in any way an accessible pricing policy? What does this mean? That when I'm putting in my pricing and my product or my service, am I incorporating an accessible pricing for customers that I know cannot pay as much as other customers? So I'm already like creating a scale for which I'm having like a social look into my business. Yeah, I'm thinking, this is how much the product costs, this is how much I should sell for, but I want to make it more accessible to a specific type of customer that I know cannot pay so much money for my product. Yeah, so this also has to do with the solidarity mechanism, if we want to put this in place. And also, do I have sponsors? Do I have sponsors that are also that can also incorporate a social impact in my project? And if these sponsors are aligned with my values, yeah? If I'm going for a social impact business that wants to generate a social impact, maybe I cannot go with a business partner that has a total different value from what I'm trying to provide to my customers, yeah? So here we've just put some logos of some social impact businesses. We ourselves are one. We can like to consider ourselves as one anyway, Tandem Social. But we have here other social impact business examples, Opciones en Abarca, which incorporate this sort of like solidarity and accessible pricing to the products that they offer. Yeah, then you have that's it. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, so as Blanca said, we are shifting to the left side of the business model. So we start now discussing the internal elements that we need to consider when defining our business model. As we said earlier, please feel free to ask questions or clarify or put your examples that you have faced when designing business models if you wish. So resources. Basically, resources are the means necessary to offer and deliver the elements of your project, of your product or service. When identifying these resources, we like to be very practical, let's say. So we start by asking, okay, what resources do we absolutely need to function? Okay, that's the first key question, the building block required to create and deliver value. Without this, the engine, the activity would simply stop. These are not necessarily just physical tools. They include human resources, like your team's expertise. Could be the team, but it could also mean, oh, we need specific knowledge on that area. Okay, that's a resource that we need to find. Or it could be intellectual property, let's say, to use a tool or a technology. Or it could be even, we need reputation to start operating. Why? Well, because to operate in a biosphere reserve, in a protected environment, in collaboration with public administrations, we cannot go there and start operating from scratch. Previously, we need to start building a reputation and a good relationship with other agents in the area. So a key resource might be this sort of privileged access to local knowledge, to traditional knowledge, to specific relationships between agents in the area. That's the type of resources that we need for the project to function. Okay, second question. Which are critical and which are secondary? Are there elements that could be not fully necessary, but good to have? For instance, a local ambassador, let's say, someone that has tested our product and is willing to share their experience. Or would it be something related to, an example for people to test themselves, or to give a first taste of our product or service? That's the type of questions that we need to ask ourselves when thinking of resources. What else? What internal capacities do we have, and what do we need to incorporate? This could be, as we were saying, specific knowledge about local relationships. Do farmers and gardeners get along well and are willing to, cooperate? Or do they not get along well and then they prefer to have segmented products? Or other capacities that we might need. Do we have distribution channels, or do we need a partner to distribute our product or service? Do we depend on a scarce resource, or do we rely on expensive providers? For instance, energy. Are we vulnerable to changes in energy prices, or do we have autonomy because we have a specific deal in place? Again, if we are operating in offices in the Biosphere Reserve, for instance, do we rely on public administrations helping us with paying the rent for these offices, or do we have our own offices in a city far away from the Biosphere Reserve? And what's the risk of each of these two options? Well, if we are close by but we rely on the administration, public administrations might change. If we are far away in an offices of our property, we might not be dependent on administrations, but we cannot be with the customer in a time span of 6 hours. Okay? And how can we obtain these resources that we would like to have them all? No? Proximity, and also cheap offices, and also reliable distribution channels, but that do not make us vulnerable to changes in energy prices. Also accessing local knowledge, but not getting involved in confrontations between let's say neighbors and the mayor of the city. So what are the type of physical, social, natural, knowledge-based resources that we need to manage our business?
Okay, thank you, Paul. And now, after seeing the resources, we go into the activities. And activities and resources are very linked as well, because in order to carry out activities, I'm going to have to relay some resources. And if I don't have these resources, then I cannot carry on these activities. Yeah. So activities it defines the strategic and operational actions that the project must perform to create the value, reach the customer, and sustain the business model. So what does this mean, basically? So if you want to pass, Paul, thank you. So the activities is the essential actions that I need to carry out. Yeah. I have my business model, I have my business idea, I have my customer defined, I have my value proposition, I know what I want to sell or what I want to provide, I know how I'm going to do it, I know how much it's going to cost, how much I'm going to earn from that, and I know what resources I have. So now is what do I need to do in order to provide this value to this customer? Yeah. And here as well, you need to ask yourself several questions that are key in order to make sure that the business model makes sense and is sustainable. Yeah. So the first question is, which activities are essential to delivering our value proposition? Essential meaning if we don't carry out these activities, I'm not going to be able to carry out my business. Yeah. It's a very basic question, and it seems obvious, but it's important. It's a relevant one. Yeah. So I don't want to keep saying the jam example. Let me think about another example. If I want to, if my business is, we were saying the fertilizer use, we were mentioning the other day, fertilizer production. If I want to produce fertilizer for local farmers in a biosphere reserve, then what would be the essential activity that I would have to do? Yeah. So in this case, one essential activity would have to actually be to produce the fertilizer. Yeah. If I don't do that, then I don't have a business. Yeah. So it's very simple, but it's very basic. So what is the essential activity and the core activity of my business and my value proposition? And then what activities differentiate us and cannot fail? Meaning this activity is also making me special and different from other providers in my environment that are providing the same product or service. So if there's an activity that's going to make me special and it's going to make me differentiate myself from the rest, then that could also be considered an essential activity in order to make my business sustainable and profitable. Yes. Then which activities generate the greatest impact on our customer? We also need to put, again, ourselves in the shoes of our customers and think, if I'm doing this activity, apart from the essential one that I need to do, if I'm also doing this other activity, this customer is going to be satisfied, and it's therefore, I'm sure he or she is going to come back to me in the future. Yeah. So this is also a very important question you need to ask yourselves. Then, which activities require the most time or specialization? And this is important because if an activity requires a lot of time and a lot of specialization, and it's going to imply a very high cost on my model, then maybe this activity, I don't have to carry out this activity, no? So to think about which ones require most time and more specialization, that's going to maybe make the business a little bit less viable. Yeah. And then which activities can we simplify or automate? Because obviously this is also going to help the business grow and be more sustainable in the long term. Yeah. So all of these are questions that you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about activities. Which ones are essential? Which ones differentiate us from the rest? Which ones generate the greatest impact on our customers? which one require more time or specialization, and which ones we can simplify or automate. Yeah. I don't know if there's another slide of activities, Paul. No.
Cool. So following this, we enter now basically the section for alliances, which includes the people, the organizations, the entities, the public administrations, the companies with which we and our project collaborates. So in the context of the WEFE Nexus and Biosfera reserves, alliances are especially key because it helps us optimize resources, reduce risks, and also expand a little bit our ability to have an impact, okay? So these networks, these alliances can include partners with which we make shared provision of resources. It can include collaborating entities that are also interested in our product. It could include suppliers. It could include other ecosystem agents which are genuinely interested in promoting the social impact that we have. Ecologist groups or local neighbors or public administrations. So these are basically links that go beyond a one-off collaboration, okay? They are links, collaborations, networks designed to help us obtain stable resources, knowledge, ideas, support that we don't own internally, but that help us increase and optimize our activities and our impact in the ultimate stance. Okay, so to define our network, again, we need to identify partners and the specific value that they bring. Okay, and we have again a set of questions that will help us see what type of partners we need. Okay, questions like who should we collaborate to strengthen the project? For instance, if we want to increase the impact, the reach of ecological jumps, should we reach out to associations of consumers? Or should we reach out to supermarkets to make sure that they position our products in a better way? Which entities or actors provide resources, knowledge, or access to clients? Well, if we want to understand the way in which consumers behave, we might need to talk to consumers association, no? The association of, for instance, families or schools that select the type of product that is delivered to kids in school-age kids. If we want to understand how distribution channels work, maybe we need to talk to supermarkets. If we want to understand the way in which this activity can be financed, maybe we need to talk to public administrations. Okay? We have to ask ourselves if these alliances help us reduce costs or they help us reduce risks, or whether they help us increase the reach of our product or they help us increase the reach of our impact. Okay? Identify exactly who we need and why we need them for. Okay? And what conditions must an alliance meet to be sustainable? Okay? If we are using a lot of money to finance an alliance that is useful to obtain a one-off knowledge exchange, maybe it's not worth it. But if we are using an alliance to have stable information on people needs, for instance, in terms of quantity of fertilizer, well, that's an alliance worth maintaining. Okay? Are there agents in the social and solidarity economy with whom we could intercooperate? Okay? Start shared projects that could obtain, for instance, European funding, because from different sectors, we both help in rural development or economic development or addressing demographic changes, for instance. Well, then maybe it might not be an intuitive alliance, but it might be someone worth interacting and having an open discussion on how we impact in this territory and see if we can, mutually benefit from cooperation. Okay. In that sense, these alliances, as we were saying, go beyond this one-off collaboration, and they could even, widen by a lot the scope of our impact. What does this mean? Well, it means that if I was initially strictly focused on my impact in the local economy through ecological fertilizers, maybe with collaboration with a different organization, my impact can help also tackling the demographic change in these areas, or tackling quality of life of young people or of old people. Okay, so building alliances with other social enterprises allows us to exponentially increase the social impact. Okay, one example or interesting example from Spain. We have these 3 cooperatives in here. Let's see if I can paint a little bit. So these cooperatives in here, which are Som Energia, Som Connexió, and Som Mobilitat, which means we are energy, we are connections, and we are mobility. These are 3 cooperatives in Catalonia, in Spain, that they provide different services. One energy, one mobile connections, and the other mobility services, car sharing services. These cooperatives found a way of cross-selling their products to their user base. Okay, so they were 3 cooperatives working in their specific sectors, with their specific customer segments, with their specific value proposition and a specific impact that they were looking for. But by collaborating, they found a way of increasing their customer base for each of them and widening the scope of their impact, because they managed to reach customers that they would not have reached otherwise on their own. Why? Well, because in the beginning, customers were not so inclined for energy, and they were only inclined for mobility service, for instance. Okay, so that's the type of intuition that we have to look for when looking for collaborations, when looking for partnerships that we need, partnerships that will provide different resources, different opportunities, extra time, extra money, extra knowledge to our organization, and what can we provide to them. Okay, and we're closing with the cost structure.
Yes, we reached our segment number 9, which is cost structure, which is also very important and basic, because the cost structure is basically going to tell us how much it's going to cost us to carry out the business. Yeah, and here you need to have a big look, a wide look into everything that can produce cost to the business. And we need to talk about all the types of assets that we have in our project. Human, meaning the people I have working in order to produce that or to service that. All the material that I'm going to be using. If I have any technology, if I have intellectual property as well. Everything that is implying a cost, and that needs to be taken into account in order to know how much I'm going to be having to sell my product, because that has to cover the minimum cost. Yeah. So key questions that we need to ask ourselves here: what are the main costs? It's a very basic question. What are the main costs of our project? Yeah, if I have people hired to do that job, if I have, if I'm renting an office, if I have technology, I have computers and I'm paying the internet, like basic main cost of my project, yeah. Then we need to ask ourselves, what are essential and what are optional costs? Yeah, essential meaning if I don't take care of this cost, I don't have a business. But this one maybe is optional, and maybe I can consider not taking care of this cost if the business is still going to be sustainable and viable. Yeah. Which ones are fixed, variable, or mixed? This is also very important because they're gonna influence a lot in the viability plan of the model, and we will see a lot about this in the next session when we explain to you the viability, economic viability of the business. Yeah, but fixed, variable, or mixed cost alternate a lot in the economic model. Yeah. Then which ones increase with the scale of the project? This is also a very important one because some costs remain permanent no matter how much I scale my project, but other costs increase as the same time that my project is scaling. And that also influences a lot in the model, in the economic model of the business. Yeah. And then the last one is how can we optimize cost without losing quality or coherence with our values? And this is also very important. Yeah, I can try to reduce the cost, but I shouldn't reduce the cost if this is going to imply losing quality or the coherence of my business. Yeah, and therefore maybe a cost cannot be reduced if it's going to influence in that. Yeah. So next slide, we have a little bit more information about the cost structure. Here you need to differentiate between what are the main costs that will incur, but also what is the initial investment. Yeah, it's important to make a differentiation between costs and investments. Yeah, the cost are derived from everything we have specified in everything we mentioned before. Yeah, the activities, the resources, the channels, the alliances. These are all costs. Yeah, and we need to use forecasting tools, which we will see in the next session, to make sure that the business is successful. Yeah, if the model, if I have the costs are a lot higher than the revenues, then we know that we have a problem. Yeah, so we will explain to you more about this in the next session. And then we also need to differentiate, as I was saying, between expenses and investment, because an investment is something that you're investing because you know you're going to recuperate it in the future. Yeah, so sometimes you need to know that you're going to make an investment, but within time you will recuperate the investment you have made. Yeah, and then expenses is a permanent expense that you have on your business. And also one last thing is how can we incorporate impact by using alternative financing tools. And by this we mean there are financing tools that come associated to socially impact like banking, financing systems. Yeah, and here we have put some examples from Spanish economy that they're banking that have this social impact aspect incorporated to it. So you can also look into that in your different regions and countries to see how you can incorporate this when thinking about the cost structure of your business. You send that to them. So for those of you still here, thank you for staying with us. We know it's a long session, but we're going to enter into the interesting part now, or the most fun part, I think. We're going to enter into the activity, and I'm going to let Paul explain to you a little bit of what we're going to do now.
Yep. So basically, now we would like to have you all as engaged as possible, as active as possible. Activate your mics if you want, or be aware of the chat and discuss over there. because the plan now is to think all together about a potential business model. Our proposal is that we work on the fertilizer production, but that's a suggestion. That's what we worked in the previous session. But please, if anyone has strong thoughts or ideas or would like to suggest an example, feel free. We will accept your examples. The idea, I'll give you these 5 minutes while we introduce the exercise to think about your example, okay? The idea is to start thinking of a product or service and design a business model, basically, as a way to visualize how we set environmental conservation, but could be, any other societal impact can align with economic development, business development, a way to visualize how the territory can be a value ecosystem, a place that generates, delivers value, and also like to make a good practice for you to develop social business models later on. So the objective of this session is to think for 5 minutes about each segment of the business model. If you are working in groups, let's say there are 3 of you in one room, you can nominate a spokesperson and share your thoughts, and we will fill in the template collaboratively. So how will we do it? Basically, we have let me change what I'm sharing. Okay. Can you hear me well if I'm like this? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the idea is that okay. We have this mural. Okay, this is an app that we can fill in with comments. Usually we would share this with you, and we would work all together, putting post-its and everything. But since we are quite a big group, we think maybe it's better that you put your contributions in the chat or through the mic, and we will fill it in. Okay. So basically, what we would like to do is to discuss each segment of the business model and start filling in the template as a way of practicing, keeping in mind the guiding questions of the triple layer business model and our suggestions of where do we find the impact in a business model. Okay, that's our suggestion for the next, let's say, 45 minutes, 1 hour, before finalizing the session. So, time for participation. Our suggestion is that we work on the business model of a fertilizer production organization. Does anyone have different thoughts, a different idea, a different project that they are working on, so they would like help and would like to discuss it openly with everyone? This is the moment to suggest your ideas. Otherwise, we go with the fertilizer production project.
Con todos, este es el momento de sugerir vuestras ideas. Si no, usamos el fertilizante. Producción.
Yeah, we have one. We have a new idea. Forestry therapy and forest bathing. It's like a kind of touristic
Esta sí, es como una especie de
good life.
turístico.
Mm.
Buena vida.
Yeah. It's a way to get therapy inside a forest, just to a wellness therapy.
Okay, good. Let's go with this one.
Bienestar y terapia de bienestar.
Can you say the name of the service again, just to keep it in, to write it properly? Sorry, Veronica, could you write it in the chat or say it again, because I didn't catch the exact name. Forest therapy. Cool. Okay. Great. Blanca, do you think you could write in the chat the specific questions that I'm asking so that everyone can keep it in mind all the time? Great. So we are working on this assumption that we will develop a forest therapy business model. So as we said, we will start from the right side of the business model. First question, who is the customer segment? Who is our target population? Who are we aiming to provide something with? And what's their specific need? Are we targeting young people with mental health problems? Are we targeting adults who feel lonely? Are we targeting women, or are we targeting young men, or are we targeting, kids? What's the customer segment, and what are their specific needs? Would be lovely to hear thoughts from everyone. Come on, be brave.
I think the customer segment would be the urban professional suffering from stress or burnout, for example.
Okay. That's interesting. That's one potential customer segment. Great. Any other thoughts? Any other ideas? Local inhabitants. Okay. Local inhabitants with some specific characteristics. Again, it could be old people, young people.
Maybe those interested in nature healing or mindfulness.
Okay. That's for everyone, not just for locals. No, that's also for urban professionals. Yeah. Okay. So
you can also imagine seniors seeking relaxation or
mindfulness and senior people seeking relaxation. Great. Nature lovers. Okay. Great. The local inhabitants, I would like more detail on the specific type of profile. What do they have in common besides living in the Biosphere Reserve? Okay, well, that's a first set of options. Second question, where do we find the specific societal value in selecting this type of customers? Are they people who cannot afford therapy in private providers? Are they people who cannot access public mental health support services for some reason, because it's crowded or because they do not exist or whatever? Do we have a societal value in selecting these customers or not so much? The answer would be, well, not so much at this point, maybe later.
yes.
No? Maybe the answer is not so much at this point. Okay. Veronica, I see you are speaking, but you are muted.
It's because we are arguing here which are our main.
Porque estamos discutiendo aquí cuáles son nuestros.
Yeah, we are arguing here, everybody.
Okay. We have, they say, maybe the societal value is giving access to nature to people who don't have this opportunity. Okay, that's great. That's a very good idea. And I will note it down. Okay. So societal value, giving access to nature to people who don't have this opportunity. That's great. And that is important because we will have to keep this in mind when thinking about who do we want to reach and how we reach them. Okay, great. Good. Yeah, everyone feels sort of comfortable with these customer segments. If so, we will go to the value proposition. Okay, what's the value proposition of this project, of this idea? Does it have? Does it solve? Sorry, Carmen. Veronica, tourism pack lovers. Okay, great. And Carmen, people who want and can live these kind of experiences, but in a group. Okay, I'll note it down. Tourism pack consumers and people who want these experiences in groups. That's actually a great idea as well. Great. So, value proposition. What problem are we solving? What pain from people we are addressing? And what is the value, the main value of our project? Do we generate specific benefits? What makes us different from other existing solutions? In essence, why should the customer choose us? Let's do something. We'll ask the questions and then give you, let's say, 3 minutes to discuss and to think and write, and then we'll be back. We'll address, okay? So 3 minutes for thinking. Other ideas? What makes us different from other customers? Maybe something related to the access to the nature, easy, non-expensive access to wellness practices. Okay, great. We have Great, we have a lot of contributions. Direct contact with nature. Direct contact with nature, less formal opportunities of mental health therapy, I understand. Less formal ways of conducting mental health therapy. We also have as a value proposition digital detox and mindfulness moments. Okay, great. Digital detox and mindfulness moments. Promoting rural and protected areas. Okay, that's also great. Promoting rural and protected areas. Great. Yeah, okay. Think that probably some of these different value propositions will be especially valuable to different customer segments that we have identified. Okay, so for instance, the less formal ways of conducting mental health therapy will be particularly valuable to people who are somewhat interested in mental health therapy, but have not accessed it yet because they feel a barrier, no? Whereas the idea of promoting rural and protected areas might be more interesting to those seeking a little bit the touristic pack, no? People who want to experience something in a group. Okay, great. Carmen also made a large comment. The problems that are solved are physical, mental, or emotional health problems. These help us connect with nature, with ourselves, play sports, feel better, socialize. Okay. Paula said connected to the environment, which goes along the ways of direct contact with nature. Eco-friendly wellness activity with positive environmental impact. No particular fitness level required. Okay, that's interesting as well because it goes with accessibility. No fitness level required. Consigned by scientific research. Okay, that's something we'll keep in mind for later. Alliance. I will save it in alliances and I will tell you why. Okay, and customized offers for individuals, groups, couples, and companies. Okay, so basically group packages. Great. Okay. Yeah. Does it feel okay? Have we covered a different set of potential value propositions for different customer segments? I think here is where like a more fine-tuning would be needed if that was to be the definite model, which is, for instance, saying, okay, did we properly identify the pains of each customer segment? For instance, for nature lovers, what might be their pain? Maybe their pain is that nature is far away. Their pain might be that accessing this type of opportunities is expensive, or their pain might be that they want to access these opportunities with friends, but their friends are not interested. Okay, then with our value proposition, which is an accessible group therapy in the nature, we are covering their specific pains. Okay, whereas for tourism pack consumers, their main pain might be the price, or it might be that very often to access nature, you need to be fit. Okay, then our value proposition for them is that we are offering an accessible activity that doesn't require specific fitness levels and that is cheap. Okay, so that's the fine-tuning that we would need to do to identify specific pains for customer segments, to assign it to a value proposition. It must always be accessible, yes. Great. So, next topic, next segment, let's say, channels. How do customers know about us? How do they contact or access our services? Which channels how do we share these opportunities? How do we deliver this product or service? Again, can we increase the societal and environmental impact of our project by thinking properly about the channels? Well, maybe yes, no? For instance, social media and web page, that's great, Carmen. But are we making sure, for instance, that all the people who might benefit a lot from accessing nature are receiving this opportunity? Well, I don't know. Let's give you 3 minutes again to think and make your contributions. Great. We have a few contributions already. I'm thinking out loud. If we want to reach, senior people seeking relaxation, do we think that we will be able to reach out these people through WhatsApp? Not sure. Through social media? If they are very, 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 very senior, unlikely. So maybe we need a partnership with public administrations, with the tourist offices, but also with the medical offices in the country, with the GP, with the general practitioner. Or do we need a partnership?
Therapist or coaches.
Do we need a partnership with social services, for instance? What do you think? Yeah, any idea on which channels could we use to increase the societal value of our project? Communication channels or delivery channels?
Tourism fairs.
Festivals, interesting. Okay. Festivals or sustainability events I'm guessing, to reach out young, conscious populations, let's say, people who are aware of the importance of nature or the importance of preservation in general. Great. What else? To connect with people already interested in sustainability, indeed. Great. I'm thinking in terms of distribution, are we offering a transportation support, or we expect people to come to us directly? What do you think? They should come themselves, or we should go and bring them with the bus, or we should, I don't know. Yeah. I'm making a lot of emphasis as well on the idea of general practitioners, okay? To make sure that this is accessible. It's not enough to say it is accessible. We must be proactive in reaching out to populations who are hard to reach. So old people with not so often access to internet, social media, or local tourism offices, people who don't go to festivals or sustainability events. So maybe we should start a discussion with administrations, general practitioners, social services. Veronica says, we should help to access to the forest by sharing cars. Okay, that's interesting. Great. So distribution channel, well, people can come by themselves, but we can also arrange car sharing services. Okay, and that's a way of incorporating environmental value in the I'm gonna note it down in green. Yeah. So environmental value, car sharing support. Very small.
Since our project is based on nature and sustainability, we can use eco-friendly transports to reach our destination.
Okay, such as trains or electric
No.
cars or
Electric cars or walking or cycling, I don't know.
okay, cycling and walking for inside, let's say, inside the reserve, but
Yeah.
for people to come from outside to the reserve, we offer this car sharing support with electric vehicles. Yeah, great. Cool. So we can help them find ways to get around by public transportation. Yes, indeed. Great. I'm noting this as well in orange as a societal value. Okay, societal value. General practitioners will help us reach hard to reach senior people. Yeah, great. I'm zooming in a little bit because otherwise it's very small. Cool. Okay, let's now switch to customer relationship. Okay, let's see what we can say about that. Customer relationship, what was that about? Anyone wants to have first call? Customer relationship was, let's say, the type of bond we set that we establish with customers. So the thing is, do we know these people? Are people who are, like part of our immediate network, or do they expect an online, organization of these activities, or would they like, like a in-person introduction to the activity? Do we expect them to come every year, let's say, as a recurrent service, or do we expect them to come once as a tourist and then forget about us, but leave a nice review for a different set of people to join? Again, you have 3 minutes to think about this question. Veronica says relationship must be recurrent. Okay. Current relationship. Great. Okay, an ongoing activity over time. Nice. Ongoing activity over time. Bonus pay 3, visit 4. Okay, so we have strategic pricing. We will have strategic pricing. I'll note that down as a revenue strategy. Pay 3, visit 4. Monthly memberships. Okay, but let's not think about price structures yet. We will discuss this at the end and in the next session. Let's think now about the type of relationship. Okay, do we have a post-sale support service? Like, will I call them after their visit? Hello, how are you? Did it work well? Have you been thinking about what we discussed in the group therapy session? Okay, that's interesting. WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group or community chat for exchanges between members. That's a very interesting customer relationship idea. Sorry, my phone. Follow up after sessions. And service. Good. I guess these are the strategies to retain customers, but do you have other ideas, other things in mind? Newsletters, okay. Keep them coming back. We can offer seasonal experiences. Okay, that's interesting. With different forests. That's very interesting. Seasonal experiences. Different forests. Yeah. Maybe also have some badges to collect for activities. Okay, that's a very interesting, again, yeah, customer retainment strategy, no? Having them collect like small prizes or badges. Videos to meet the person before. Okay, that's a very good point on the type of relationship we want to establish with our customers. We want to fidelize our customers for them to bring others. Okay. And how do we make sure? That's an interesting point, Bufra. For now, we've been discussing strategies to fidelize them, no? Or to make to keep the contact with them and make sure that they come back often. But that's not exactly the same as making sure they bring others, right? So we need also small nudges, small strategies to make sure that they not only are happy with our service, but they bring friends and new people. Okay. For instance, well, the price strategy that we were discussing, no, bring a friend and pay 50% or similar ideas. Okay, let me note down badges to recognize recurrent participation. Also, we said videos to meet the person before they come to the reserve. Okay, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting exercise we're doing here. Is a rebooking system. That's very interesting as well. I'm gonna combine the easy rebooking system with attraction of friends, no? Having them as service ambassadors. Okay, so sort of both making it easier for them to be fidelized and come more often, and also give them a small nudge for them to engage new participants. Okay, voila, equal engage new participants. Great. Great. I think that Carmen Garcia, when the session ends, everyone can have a vermouth together and talk about how they felt. This increases the sense of well-being and the feeling of belonging to the group. Great. I think, yes. I will combine this with the previous contribution saying that we should have a WhatsApp group or community chat for exchanges between members, because it goes to the same link, to the same concept of creating a community beyond being service users. Okay, promoting events, vermouth, or chats after sessions to create a sense of community and share how they felt. Yeah, great. Good job. So, well, I think you cannot, yeah, for some reason now it's very small, but anyway. Okay, now, if I can move properly in the mural, yes. Great. We will skip, if you allow me, from the revenue and cost structure, because I call it a community to create a sense of belonging. Yes, indeed. Great. So I will skip the revenue and cost structure because I would like to discuss this at the end and link it to the next session on the feasibility plan. And yes, Veronica, you will receive this camp at the end of the session. We will share the results with everyone. Okay. So now the idea is that we go with resources. Okay, if you let me skip revenues and cost structure. So resources, the means necessary to deliver the service that we have in mind. Again, think that they can be physical, they can be social, they can be intellectual, they could be emotional, they could be related to experience, so they could be human resources. We'll give you 3 more minutes to think about and make contributions in the chat. So, resources. We have some sort of guide or mentor for the actual activities, right? Guide or mentor. Let me zoom in. guide or mentor for the activities. And Nadia said this should be a certified guide or therapist. Yeah, great. Veronica said we need accessible and ecologically forests close to villages. Okay. Nadia said we need safety equipments. I would need a little bit more details on what safety equipment means. We need administration staff for organizing marketing and communications. Great. We need a booking platform. That's also true. What else do we need? Do we need any materials for the activities? If the activities are in the reserve, do we expect them to bring the boots, for instance, or are we providing them something just in case? Do we need something, I don't know, like a ball, for instance, for the activities, or some papers and pens and pencils for them to work on some activities? Do we have any material thing that we need for self-reflection? I'm guessing that the safety equipment that Nadia said was along the lines of, walking and trekking and hiking sort of safety equipment, right? Booking platform and website. Materials such as mats, okay. Yeah. Safety equipment for hiking activities. So, yeah, trail signs, orientation markers, maps, and also materials such as mats. Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. Okay. Can we think of a way to incorporate societal and medical emergency readiness and materials such as cords, word stick, etc.? Yeah. Cords, word stick, people. Great. Can we think of a way of incorporating societal and social value through the resources? For instance, the providers of this type of materials. What do you think? Hiring local people. Yes, interesting. Good. Local people and local providers. Societal value. Hiring local people and local providers. Good. Also in the materials, can we add some environmental criteria? Yep, hiring people also, hiring companies with people from disadvantaged background or disabilities. Interesting. Using local products. Okay, there's also the ecological value. So we need to make sure environmental value. Local restaurants, yes. Local products. Yeah, good. Synergies to restaurants and municipalities as well as a social value, indeed. Great. Yeah, does it make sense to everyone? Do you think it's shaping up well? It's a reasonable business model. Good. Then activities. Now is where the people with the idea should lead the way. What did you have in mind with this project? What are the activities that are essential for delivering the value proposition? No? What are the exact activities that we will do to solve mental health problems, to promote rural and protected areas, to offer personalized wellness retreats? What's going to be our main activity? Again, 3 minutes to think about it. So we have some initial suggestions here. Include activities such as observing local plants and animals, cleaning the forest. What else could we offer to the people? I just keep talking because the silence is weird, but feel free to think and reflect and contribute through the chat. Or ask questions if something is not clear. Creativity sessions, okay, interesting. Forest bathing is a conscious immersion with mindfulness, using all the senses and analyzing together what is around us. Okay, so we have forest bathing, we have forest therapy like mindfulness, we have creativity sessions and creative visualizations. Great, so that's a good set of activities. Forest bathing, forest therapy, brackets, mindfulness. We also have creativity sessions and creative visualizations. We have sharing nature flow I'm not sure I understand what's sharing nature flow. Capacity building. Amal, I am interested in your thoughts. Do you mean capacity building for the professionals, or do you mean capacity building for users who come to learn things about life in nature? What type of capacities you are thinking about? For all users as well, professionals. Great. Carmen says, games that connect with nature, especially for children and teenagers. Okay. Amal says, capacity building for users as well as professionals like agencies and NGOs. Okay, that's very interesting. We will need to add this later in the customer segment because these are names that did not come up before, but came up now. So we will need to, as we said, the business model is not a static framework. It's something that we can keep modifying, updating, tweaking if we need to add a new customer segment or if we add a new value proposition. So it's more like a tool for discussion to do what we are doing right now. Great. Paula says, share stories and knowledge about the forest. Yes, so a little bit like pedagogic or educational activities. Veronica says art therapy. Great. Educational activities. Okay, I see we have a lot of ideas, my friends. That's going to be a lot of work to do. Good. I think that's good enough for now for the activities. Okay. So for the alliances, now I think it's something that. Sorry, Nadia, please tell me. I thought you were speaking. So alliances. Sorry. In terms of societal and environmental impact, is there something in the activities that we should take into account? For instance, do our activities have externalities? Do they imply costs for the ecosystem? Do we waste resources? Do we pollute the forest? Do we have anything that we should keep in mind? What do you think? And how can we minimize these costs and optimize the benefits for the ecosystem? Yes, great. Okay, so we need environmental value. We need to coordinate with authorities to avoid overuse of the forest, which leads to degradation. Great. That's a great point. Yes, okay, so societal and environmental value. We are educating people on how to use these environments or these spaces. And educate people on how to relate to the forest and leave zero waste behind. That's great. Veronica says we have small groups. Okay, so that's a good policy for reducing the impact. Okay, control the noise. and incentivize eco behavior. Yeah. Good. Yep. Do we have, thinking of social impact and social stakeholders, do we expect to have any specific approach to local neighbors, to involve them in the governance of these activities or in the participation in these activities, or make sure that, for instance, we are complementary to what they are doing? No, for instance, if we say that we are doing I don't know, like forest bathing or activities or capacity building for users and professionals, could we make that in a way that is beneficial for local neighbors? For instance, if they produce their own food, showing how they do it in a way that they also benefit from the service. Okay, that's also a way of incorporating a social value to our to our activity. Okay, I'm gonna put it here: social value, incorporating neighbors in benefiting from the activities as users or as the social impact. Carmen says the social impact is that it is a way of raising awareness among the population about the importance of and connection with nature in order to respect it. Yes. And another social impact would be increased consumption in local establishments. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so as we were saying, and we are almost running out of time, so let's do it fast. Alliances. We can offer training to local community members. Yes, that's great. Plus offer, noting it down. Plus offer training to local community members. Good then. Alliances. Who do we need to talk in order to use resources more efficiently, expand the scope of our impact? Who are the key allies for the project? I put one in the beginning, which is scientific support, because someone said in the beginning that this needs to be an evidence-based project. I cannot remember how you framed it, but someone said that we need to show that this is a scientific sort of therapy. So maybe we need an alliance with a professional college or a professional association or a scientist that helps us shape the service. We need alliances with municipalities. Yes, Veronica. Nadia says we need alliances with travel agencies and tour operators, forest managers, local authorities, and maybe arrange for seasonal transportations. Yes, that's great. Transport providers, also Nadia, and universities. Great. Good. That's good. It would be nice, if you elaborate exactly on what we said during the theory part, which is what do we need from each of them? From local authorities and transport providers, we need arrangements for seasonal transportation tickets, signs, and networks of locals. Great. From forest managers, we need their accreditation, to operate in the area, and also their help with coordinating the number of groups in order to avoid deterioration of the environment. That's great as well. From universities, psychologists, therapists, we need their scientific support. We need their accreditation that the type of activity that we are providing is valuable and it is evidence-based. Okay? Good. Associations of many types. Elderly, yeah, great, Carmen. That was my question. We need alliances with people who will help us reach out the potential users. Elderly people associations, people with disabilities, schools, for instance, professionals association, if we want to offer this as a capacity building opportunity. Okay, so we need to identify potential alliances in many segments. Also, we might not know why yet, but maybe we need alliances with other social economy organizations in the region or in the country to see if we have an opportunity for cross-advertising our services. Okay, if there is a cooperative selling agroecological food, maybe they can help me advertise my services and I can help them advertise their services. Okay? Great. So, 10 minutes left, but we are done, okay? Basically, that was a very good practice. Thank you very much to all of you, because it was hard to make it, with the chat and with almost 20 people here. So it's a bit hard to have these contributions, and I think we got some really nice ideas. I will not go now into the revenue and cost structure, because we will try to save this, to keep this example in mind for the next session, which is going to be on the feasibility plan. Okay, we will check the revenue and cost structure of an initiative like this one. So basically, yeah. Going back to the slides. So we've worked collaboratively in a mural to fill in the business model, considering the structure of the three-layered business model. And the idea is that we will build on this example to work on the following sessions on the feasibility study. So for this session, that was our plan. But now we have 10 minutes. The last day we were a little bit on a rush, but this week we have 10 minutes. Would you like to share some ideas, some doubts? Would you like to see the exercises and make some changes or adapt something to your experience? How do you feel it is valuable, what we have done today? Do you have criticisms? We have 10 minutes for ideas and thoughts.
I would like just to ask if for this service, for example, forest therapy, if it is coherent with the three layers that you have told about in the first of the session. For example, I think that it is coherent regarding the environmental and social impacts, okay? But I think that it should be not, or it is conditionally, because if we extra use the forests by the tourists, for example, it will lead to degradation. So, right?
Veronica, do you want to go first, or? Yeah. So I think that's a very good question.
Así que creo que esa es una muy buena pregunta.
It's just before finish, don't forget to complete the survey. Yes. It's because it's my I have to say it.
Es porque es mí.
Yeah. So on your question, Amal, I think that's a good point, and I think there is always work to do on making things more coherent with the different impacts that we are seeking. And actually, that goes very well with the discussion that we have, if people remember, in the previous session regarding the impact of our project, the positive impact of our project in the WEFE Nexus and the societal impact of the idea, and the costs in terms of resources, water, energy, food, ecosystems that this activity implies. So of course, we always have to capture indicators in both directions and then decide if it's coherent, if it's enough for us to justify the existence of this type of project. What we said is that at the end of the sessions, we will try to go a little bit in deep into the indicators, okay? So in order to make this type of decisions of weighting whether it's worth it or not to pursue this type of activities. Yeah, that's one of the surveys that Veronica was saying. I think you will receive in the email as well the 2 surveys, Veronica. Yep. And that would be it from our side. Next Tuesday we have the next session on the feasibility plan. So we will go in deep into the numbers of this activity and analyze potential costs and revenues of this activity. Thank you very much for your participation. Again, it's not easy sometimes to participate when there's so many people, and you've been very, very active. So looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you, everybody. See you in a week.